Hello, and welcome to Alchemy Mindset. I'm your host, Anna Hasty, business mindset coach for women and a sound healer. If you are ready to become the most aligned, magnetic, and confident businesswoman you are worthy and deserving of being, then this show is for you. This is where I share everything from mindset, energy, and spirituality, and how to embody your future self in business and life. Sprinkle that with deeply relaxing sound healings and meditations, and you have the Alchemy Mindset podcast. Hit subscribe so you always get the latest episode. Now let's begin. Hello, dear listener, and welcome to this fabulous episode on the Alchemy Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Anna Hasty, and I'm so excited to share this guest interview with you today. So before we start this episode, whether you're aware of it or not, your soul and spirit knows what you are here to achieve in this lifetime. It knows what you are here to live for and to experience. And the truth is, for many of us, we don't have that awareness. In some circles, they say it, that awakening, that awareness, that understanding that our soul and spirit have a divine purpose for us, and we are here to experience something, learn something, heal something within each lifetime that we incarnate on this planet. And for some of us, because we have our blinkers on, we're not able to be aware of what our soul and our spirit is trying to communicate with us. Spirit has to step in. The soul has to take control, and sometimes that message can be as big as a high-speed collision into a truck at 100 k's an hour. This is exactly what happened to Brooke McIntosh one day when she was driving down the highway. Brooke is a former truck driver turned elite athlete, entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and a business coach. And on that fateful day, she realized there was more to her life than she believed. In our episode today, she shares her story of determination, courage, resilience, and strength to go all in her first ever 1,600-kilometre run from Pilbara to Perth to raise awareness for mental health and the Blue Tree Project. Impact to Ignite was completed last year in 2023, and it now leaves Brooke to fully go all in on her next project and endeavour, just one more, which is to run around Australia and be the first person to create a world record in the shortest amount of time. I love these kind of stories. I honestly love reading or listening or watching movies or vlogs of people who are doing things that are exceptional, that push themselves to the limit, that test their own resilience and strength and courage, because I find them so inspiring, empowering, and encouraging. It's that massive reminder that if someone can step out of their comfort zone, set a goal or a challenge and achieve it, then it means anybody can do the same thing on any level within life, and for anybody in all walks of life. One thing you'll hear the most within our conversation is not only Brooke's story leading up to that pivotal moment and how she decided that she was going to do this initial run from the Pilbara to Perth, but a lot about spirit and energy, and how she's actually now creating a holistic approach of mind, body, and spirit, which is Brooke's secret weapon, which helped her achieve not only her first run, but is now her tactic for upping the ante and bringing in more support for next year's run. And this is something that I truly believe is going to be more prevalent in years to come, that the importance of spirit and connection to your soul and energy or energetics in all aspects of life, of no matter what we're achieving or doing, whether it's in business, whether it's in fitness, whether it's in our finances, whatever aspect of our life, we are now being asked to really bring in more of that energetic and spiritual aspect of ourselves. And Brooke is proof. In this episode, you will hear she is proof that this can be beneficial to running 1,600 kilometres down the west coast of Australia. Now, before we share so much more, before you hear all of Brooke's story, before you hear about this exciting project that she is working towards next year, I want to say there is a trigger warning. Brooke shares very openly about her mental health state and that she was actually considering committing suicide and ending her own suffering on that fateful day. Brooke had battled anxiety, depression, PTSD, and bulimia in her younger years, knowing firsthand the impact poor mental health can have on a person. And this is why she's now on a mission to run around Australia in 2025 and raise, again, $1.4 million to the Blue Tree Project, igniting the nation to speak up and seek support around mental health. So if you are currently in a time within your life where this episode may feel triggering and uncomfortable, that's okay. Please press pause and come back to it at a time when you feel like it will be more impactful and beneficial to you. And if you are in a place where you are considering taking your own life, or you are struggling with anxiety or depression, please, please, please seek support, whoever and however that may be, and continue until you find the solution and the resolve to help you be like Brooke and achieve your greatness. So without further ado, and giving any more of our episode away, please welcome Brooke McIntosh to the Alchemy Mindset podcast, and let's begin. Hello, hello. Hey, Brooke. Welcome to Alchemy Mindset. I'm so excited, like beyond excited. I am hoping that we can replicate an amazing conversation similar to what we had at that pre-dinner before the Leadership Forum earlier this year, because that was a moment where I was like, we really need a microphone. We need to press record on this. There is so much amazing wisdom and knowledge and just those divine conversations where you're like, people need to hear this. Like, people need to hear this conversation. So welcome to the Alchemy Mindset podcast. I am so pleased to have you here. Tell us, what is happening in your world? Who are you, Brooke? What's going on?
Who am I? There is so many versions of me. I'm elite athlete, business coach, and speaker. I am rebellious as fuck. I don't go with the status quo, and I like to go big or go home and create an impact. And that's exactly, I feel like, why I'm here and why we're having this conversation today, is the impact of the conversation that we had at that dinner when we first originally met. I run a lot and I impact a lot and I help others do the exact same.
Yeah, I know, right? So we're going to talk more about your most recent endeavor, which was Impact to Ignite, where you literally ran from the Pilbara to Perth, that's 1,600 kilometers. How many days was that?
So I ran Pilbara to Perth, 1,600 kilometers, 60 Ks a day for 28 days.
And that was nonstop?
Nonstop. So it was over a marathon a day for 28 days for people, just to like put more into context.
Yes, because a marathon is like, what is that, 42 kilometers?
43 Ks. Yeah.
Yeah. So every day you ran like over a marathon, like almost a marathon and a half for 28 days straight. That's mad. That's so exciting. And these are the kind of stories I love. Like, I honestly am the kind of person who loves reading or listening or watching to people who have really pushed themselves beyond what I feel like is our comfort zone, our limits, you know, the story we've been brought up in, and they've really pushed themselves to the extreme to test themselves. And in your case, it was to raise awareness for mental health. So let's rewind the clock. What brought you to that moment where you literally stepped out of your support van in the Pilbara and you put your running shoes on and you're like, I'm doing this. Like, I'm doing this for a cause. I'm doing this for a reason. And you're like, holy shit, I'm here. I'm at the starting line. But what happened in the lead up to all of that? Because there must have been a moment when you were like, I'm going to run for mental health. But usually behind that, there's a bigger reason why, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my point where I was just like, I need to do this, was I've battled from anxiety, depression, eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia my whole life. And that started when I was 12 years old. And then to experience that my whole life, and in August 2022, it was the week leading up to, I was battling suicidal ideation hard, and I had actually planned to take my own life that week. And it was in that week I was driving along on the highway going 100 Ks an hour, and I literally got hit by a truck going 100 Ks an hour as well. And it was in that moment that I woke up, I regained my consciousness after the accident, and I was lying in the hospital bed and I was like, whoa, like, this is my second chance at life. What impact do I want to create? Because how I was living my life beforehand was day to day. I had no plan. I had no purpose. It was literally like, live life to the fullest, and whatever happens, happens. And then in that moment on the hospital bed, I was like, there's more to my life than this. Like, what impact do I want to create? And that's where I was working cycle at the time. And that's where I was like, you know what? I'm going to run from Pilbara to Perth to raise awareness for mental health for those who are suffering in silence. Because I realized in that moment that it wasn't that I wanted to go, it was that I wanted the pain to end and I wanted the suffering in silence to end. So then by me doing something drastic like this, I was like, hopefully this gets the conversation started.
Yeah. What a powerful moment. Do you feel like that was spirit just literally like slamming itself at 100 k's an hour via a truck into your life to really wake you up?
Yeah, definitely. Because there was smaller moments throughout my life where like I had a scooter accident in Bali and I was in hospital for 6 months. That should have been the end. There was another moment. And then I feel like this truck accident where I walked out literally, I woke up while I was still in my car and ran over to the truck driver, ran over to the other car involved and asked them if they were all okay. I was in shock. But for me to have no serious injuries at all except for severe whiplash, I feel like that was spirit being like, wake up. I've got to hit you by a truck for you to listen to the nudge inside of you that you want more, that you're born for more. From a young age, I always felt like I wanted more. However, I was seeking them more in the wrong crowds and the wrong circumstances. And then, yeah, in that moment, I was like, what I'm currently doing, like the partying, the drugs, the alcohol, it's not helping at all. And 2 years before that, so roughly about 5 years ago, was the first moment where I discovered breathwork and where I first discovered the moment and rewrote the belief that I was loved. And that moment was so huge, but I had just like gotten back into my normal way of living that I forgot that moment. So it was like this truck accident really made me realize that there is more to life. And then the moment before that was a breathwork session. So it was like after the truck accident, I was like, go all in on my own healing journey, what I'm here to do, and then all in on my dream. Yeah, I've never looked back.
Wow, that's an incredible
Yeah.
story. And the fact that you just literally walked out of a massive high collision accident and you ran over to the truck driver and the other car involved and said, "Are you okay?" Like without any form of injury, like you could have died, right? You could have died in that moment. And the fact that leading up to that, you had what you called was suicide idolization. So you'd been thinking of taking your own life and you'd been planning that out. And then in that moment, that could have been your moment. You could have had that moment where you passed away and just ended the silence and the suffering. Did you know you could get help, or did you ever feel like you could get help and you tried, or was there anything in that beforehand that you'd sort of gone, maybe I should speak to someone, like this isn't right, like I feel bad, I feel like I'm in a bad place? Did you ever think that was possible for you, or?
Yeah. I felt like I tried to seek help multiple times, but through the people who would just shut me up or through the people who were just keeping me on this merry-go-round. Like it was all talk therapy, but it wasn't really addressing the root of cause. It wasn't really addressing like the childhood traumas, the sexual assault that's happened and past traumas that has happened in my life. It wasn't really addressing that. It was just more talk therapy and keeping me on the cycle. So therefore I was still living in the pain and I was never actually ridding the pain. And it just never helped for me. And in the moment of the truck accident, I was literally having thoughts of like, I'll just crash into a concrete bollard right now and then my pain will be gone. Then I'll feel better. My family won't feel like I'm a burden, or I won't feel like I'm a burden on anyone. It will be easier for everyone. Those were the thoughts that I was having. And yeah, so I feel like I did try to seek help, but maybe not enough for the help that I needed.
Yeah.
Or in the right areas.
Yeah. So in terms of like professional help, or was it more like just trying to lean on friends or family that you thought could like be a good ear to listen or express your thoughts and your feelings to?
There was definitely more like a bit of professional help in there, and they're the ones who were like just labeling me. You got ADHD, you got bipolar, you got depression, and I was like, I'm not a label. I knew I wasn't a label. I knew the label was because something had happened to me. And then, yeah, from that, then I'd go and have a conversation with my family or like my friends, and they're like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And again, just push it down, push it down, push it down. And when you get told, don't worry about it, but you know inside that, like, you still feel that, you can't just turn a blind eye.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like you're trying to push down further and further these feelings and emotions to pretend that they don't exist. But we all know a fact that in some ways they're going to manifest into your life and come out into your reality. And in that moment, you literally, in a really horrible way, but in a wake-up call way, you thought on during that drive, I'm just going to smash into a bollard. That will be the easiest thing. And then a truck ran into you instead. Like, The power of spirit and thoughts and everything within your reality. I think you touched on it a bit earlier, but I'd love you to share a bit more. Did you ever feel within your life leading up to that moment that you were destined for more, that you were destined for a life that wasn't in pain, that you were destined for some form of greatness or something exceptional? Because what we will talk about after this track accident and what happened forwards is completely like taking the reins of your life and going, right, I'm going to change the game here and I'm going to live and lead my dreams and do something really powerful for others. Did you ever have that feeling? Was there ever a moment in your childhood, your adolescence, even as a young adult that, oh, there has to be more to this? Like, I know I'm destined for more.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint like when that exact moment was, but I definitely know growing up, like maybe when I was about 7 or 8 or even younger, I just knew I wanted more. And I knew that that more was out there. However, because I kept living a life to society standards or like going with the status quo, and I kept actually chasing the real thing that I kept doing was I was chasing after validation from other people. And I was chasing after the dreams of other people that were not mine to hold on to nor achieve. And that is the reason why I believe that I was down that suicidal ideation, that I was down that depression spiral, because I was never getting the validation that I wanted or achieving the dream that I thought was mine. I was doing it out of desperation. I was doing it out of acceptance. I was doing it out of seeking something from the external world when I was lacking it so much internally. And that's why nothing ever, well, I believe that's why nothing ever worked for me. I couldn't stick at anything because in the end I hated it. And I was like, well, what's the point of this? And I was like, this first thing, like this thing that I've now stuck at for so long, it lights me up every single day. I jump out of bed every single day. I live in purpose every single day. I no longer have those negative thoughts that I ever had. I validate myself every day. I love myself every single day. And it's all because I'm now living in purpose. And yeah, I just know that there's more to life. And I think this is where I get a lot of frustration come up, is because I know that there is so much more that people can be doing with their life if they go just one more and if they stop seeking the validation from others and validate them.
Yeah. Wow. So that's kind of like the core essence of what you're wanting to help people with now, having experienced that massive realization where your life was threatened and almost taken away from you, but you've been given another chance, like another final chance, right? You know, you survived a scooter accident in Bali. Like, gosh, how many of them happened? But, you know, a scooter accident in Bali, other things beforehand, and a high speed collision. So what happened that moment afterwards? Like, because you would have like come out of the hospital and gone, all right, I've been given another chance. Was it just within that moment you realized, or did that take a while to kind of seep in as you were in that recovery kind of place?
No, it was so when I got to the hospital, there was literally like 15 doctors waiting for me. All they knew was high speed car accident, critical condition, we don't know. And then I got wheeled in. And when I'm in shock, I crack jokes. So I was having all these jokes with these doctors. And I remember just like lying on my hospital bed and I was alone for like 2 hours while I was waiting. But then my sister walks in, then my sister walks out and goes to the shop, and I just like bursted into tears. And I was like, I'm not proud of the life that I'm living. And I asked myself one simple question. I was like, this is your second chance. What impact do you want to make? And then I was like, yeah, we're going all in. I didn't know that I wanted to do the run in that specific moment, but I did figure out that I wanted to raise awareness for mental health in that moment and have an impact on people's lives. The run come about probably about 2 months later when I went back to FIFO and went back to work. I remember just lying awake on my donga, my hospital bed. It felt like that. But I remember just lying awake in my donga and literally I'm FIFO in the middle of nowhere. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I just couldn't sleep, couldn't go back to sleep. And it was just this nudge was coming through hard and hard. And it was like, you're going to run from Pilbara to Perth. And I was like, what? I've never ran more than 12 Ks in my life. How am I going to make this possible? And then a name dropped in, Nick, and then my brother's name dropped in, Cam, as well. So then I messaged Nick and I messaged Cam. I was like, I have this grand plan. Give me a call tomorrow. And then the next day, Nick called me. And Nick is a physiotherapist who I rate highly over in Sydney. And I told him, and he was like, this is nuts, but this is insane. Let's get to work. And he put me in all contact with all these people. And then I told my brother, and my brother tried to downplay it. and tried to like protect me and tried to be like, I don't want my younger sister to hurt. I don't want my younger sister to fail at something. So trying to protect me in that way. And it was just interesting because if I had have only messaged my brother, then the run wouldn't have happened. But because I messaged Nick as well, and I feel like Spirit led me to message Nick too, it was like bound to happen. It was all the systems go. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had the support. You had someone who was like in your corner going, yeah, we can do this. Let's make it happen. Like, this is nuts, but I'm excited for you. Let's make this goal happen. And then you also had your brother going, are you sure? Like, is this really what you want to do? So you almost had that kind of confirmation that, yes, it is possible and you can do this and that you want to do this and someone's there to make you happen. But also that voice that no doubt you would come up against a lot as to people going, you're freaking nuts, right, Brooke? Like, you really want to run? Like, who are you? Did you get that a lot within the preparation for all of this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I laugh about it now, but at the time, actually, I laugh about it now, but even at the time, I was like, nah, oh, well, it's done. It's done already. I'm a big visualizer and I visualize my whole life now. But for me, the run was already done before it even started. But it took me to run 1,200 Ks for my dad to believe in me.
Wow.
It took me to cross the finish line for my family to look at me and be like, oh shit, she done it.
Crazy. Your family. So your family like doubted you?
The whole way through. I had no support from them from training. They would check in with me and be like, how's your training going? But then they would always make jokes. Then they would always laugh about it. Then they were always like, she's going to give up soon. In the back of their mind, that's what they were thinking. And then it literally took me to run 1,200 Ks for my dad to be like, oh my God, fully believing in her now. I will give her a message every single day. Or I will like just do whatever. And then that night when I crossed the finish line at the City Beach, Perth, the reason why I know this is because across the finish line, we all went out for dinner with my family afterwards. I went around the table and I asked my family, I was like, what did you think when I first asked you? Like, I'm just curious now. What did you think? Did you believe in me? Did you not? And every one of them said no. My brother was the only one, my brother and my dad was the only one who gave me the reason for the no behind it. And in that moment, that is where I realized that when you chase your own dreams in life, you will do whatever it takes to achieve it. Because my brother said to me, he's like, I said no because every time you told me that you're going to do something, it gets hard. You run up against a hardship, adversity strikes, and then you use that as your story as to why you can't achieve it.
Yeah, that's a common thread for a lot of people chasing goals or trying to achieve something big, or even just, it doesn't have to be humongous, but as soon as there's a challenge or like a knock on the door that says, they just give up, right?
Through that whole journey, I faced so many. I faced a few injuries. The biggest thing that I faced was the naysayers that I couldn't do it. But because I knew that this was my mission, this was my purpose, this was my dream, that I just went the extra distance. And that was like the greatest gift out of it all, I think, of it all was like the amount of times that I've given up in my life because I knew that that wasn't my dream, but I was just trying to fill the void, feel the validation, feel the acceptance, feel the need that I needed. And this time I was literally doing it purely because of me, purely because of the impact that I want to create.
Yeah, absolutely. And how different is that within your own energy and within your own like self-confidence and the belief within yourself? Because I can hear you saying like, I've tried so many other things in life, but I've fallen short. And do you feel like that's because, again, spirit, like your own soul was like, this isn't for you. Like you said, you were seeking external validation or you were doing it for someone else. But really, in the essence, your soul was like, forget it, Brooke. This is not what we're meant to be doing in this lifetime. This is not our plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I reflect on that and I'm like, every time that I listened to my soul nudges, and I'm getting way better at doing it now, but every time I listen to those nudges, more stuff unfolds and it literally just works out. So not effortlessly because you still got to put the effort in, but it just works out a lot more with ease. Instead of the resisting, it's like go where you actually feel called. Listen to that thing that we're told to ignore, our intuition. Listen to that and go. It doesn't have to make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have like an example of something like that led you, that spirit and soul was coming through and saying, do this, and you're like, that feels a bit weird, but I'm going to do it anyway? And that sort of was like in part of creating this big project, which was the Impact to Ignite run.
Yeah, I do. My biggest soul nudges that I always go back to is one, I was in a relationship for 5 years total. In the 6-month period, I knew I shouldn't have been there. I ignored. I kept dismissing my own energy, kept dismissing my own intuition. I stayed in that relationship for 5 years. I didn't have a voice. I had no confidence. I didn't know who I was. I couldn't even go out of the house without asking him for his permission.
Wow.
And then finally, I listened to that soul nudge. I had enough courage to leave that relationship. And then I left. And what unfolded after that was just so much more happiness and joy. And another time was like, I knew I needed to leave Karratha, and then I moved back down to Perth. Within 2 weeks, I bought my dream house.
Wow.
It would just come on the market like that. And now my new relationship, my mind was like, don't entertain it. Like, don't wreck a good friendship. But now my soul is like, you need to, like, you want to be in this relationship, go for it. And I'm in it, and it's just the most beautiful thing ever.
That's incredible. I'm so glad you've shared that, because I think that's been, like you were saying earlier, like people fall short of their dreams and their goals because they hit a brick wall, they hit a hard moment, or they're not tuning into their soul's message because it just feels uncomfortable, or it feels weird, or like, you know, what are people going to think if I do this? Or you really want me to do that? Like, and then in actual fact, if they had listened and if they had just followed that thought, the most amazing, like you said, easier things come about, like duck just flows. Look how amazing this relationship is that you've found yourself in, and all these other little things that can drop in towards leading you to your goal or to your desire or whatever you're working through. So much more easier, like it, and you achieve it in the end.
Yeah. And I always just revert back to, like, if you're saying yes to one thing, you're saying no to a thing. So make sure whatever you say yes to, fully in alignment into where you want to go and your values in life. And if it isn't, well, you're cock blocking yourself from something better coming into play.
Yeah, you literally are, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you then realized, I'm going to run from, so you started in Karratha, is that correct? Because that's where you'd been working for FIFO, is that right?
Yeah. So I was working I lived in Karratha for about 7 years, and then I started working FIFO there. But my dad actually, this is how I feel like it is so much more, even more entwined into the spiritual world, is because my dad, and I feel like we can go here, but my dad actually has been living in Karratha since I was 1 year old. So I grew up in a split family, and my mum left my dad when I was 2 years old, and we moved back down to Perth. But my dad had been living in Karratha my whole life. And for me, not only was the run to raise awareness for mental health and to do this, it was also like a coming home. It was like running from my dad's house to my mum's house, which is something that I envisioned my younger self doing my whole entire life.
Wow. I've just got like major confirmation over that, like goosebumps all over. Like, wow, that's really special.
And because I've never had, from like someone growing up in a split family, it's like, okay, we'll go see dad every second holiday. So we'd see him twice a year. And it was like, for us to go up there, it was a massive ordeal. So we'd go up there for 2 weeks or so. And it was never like, oh, I just want to go over dad's house and pop down the road and say hi, because it was obviously the distance. So it was just like, yeah, I started in Karratha, and another like piece to that puzzle was, it was Pilbara to Perth for the FIFO space, but it was also kind of like a home running for me.
Absolutely. So it had that fulfillment within yourself, like fulfilling that inner child element, and that maybe that brokenness that you'd felt growing up within your family. Is that true for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was like before the run, I'd done a lot of work on myself around the lovable piece, because when my parents split up when I was so young, I thought, I held on to the belief that I was unloved and that my dad didn't love me. So it was like, pre-run, I went back and healed a lot of that. That's what breathwork has given me. But then to do physically, like on the run as well, starting from there and running all the way to my new home, it just like solidified the fact that I am loved. Yeah.
Wow.
A lot more happened.
Gosh, there's so much that goes in behind hearing your story here as to why you put this together. It wasn't just like, okay, I had a wake up call. I'm just going to raise some money for mental health because people need to know about this, which is important. I'm not trying to overshadow that at all. Like, it is important to talk about mental health and suicide prevention, and people to seek help and to have that awareness. But even the bigger, like, there's more like personal elements intertwined within that. And that's part of your own healing journey.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like everyone has the capability to reach their limitless potential when they start looking at it as in not just the physical. They start tapping into the spiritual, the energetics, the mindset, and combine it all. It's like,
yes,
what you can do is just wild.
Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at you now. You are like buzzing, going, can you not see how important and how beneficial this was for me? Like, can you see how this has just really enriched my life and just made me like this bigger, brighter, more impactful, powerful person to help share my message with others? Like, I can see that within you. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And not having ever met you beforehand, knowing the earlier versions of Brooke, like not having known you there, but I can just see within yourself how much your spirit just glows with the fact that you started something and you finished it and you had an amazing impact within yourself. And then now you've got this even bigger moment. But before we even get into that, I just want to know, so you said earlier that you'd only ever run like 12Ks max. And obviously on this run, you were running 60Ks a day for 28 days straight. What was your training like? What did you have to do? What was your mental preparation? What was the physical preparation? What were all the other elements that you had to put together?
Training, what was that? Well, I was strength training 3 days a week and I was running 6 days a week in the end. The most I'd ever ran, like gotten up to into my training phase, was 55Ks. That was the longest distance. So I didn't actually run the 60Ks until day one of the actual feat. There was a lot of recovery. There was a lot of working with my own mentor, my own mindset coach. There was a lot of on the run. That's when I started working with my light worker. And I see and noticed a massive difference as well. So now I continuously work with my light worker and have energy healing sessions with her now.
Oh, so what did she do for you on the run? Like, because, you know, usually when you see people do these kind of things, they've got like maybe someone to help them with recovery, someone to help them with like the support vehicle, but you never really see anybody with an energy healer or a light worker on their team. Like, what does that, well, tell me more.
I'm like, this is my secret.
Is it your secret weapon? Oh, I'm sorry. Are we not meant to publish this?
No, I'm totally ready to share this stuff. Yeah, so I had a light worker work with me every single day. She come into my energetic field and cleared it out. So for me, at that time, I was still a little bit like blasé in like the power of it. I was like, oh yeah, you can do that. Because she offered her services. And I was like, this will be amazing. Whatever, I'll just say yes and we'll see how it goes. By day 2, I was like, Larissa, I need help. You need to do your thing again. And I was just hooked with it. But every day she was clearing out my energetic field, and every morning she was like resetting me. Like if I had little niggles come up, she would check in with me and be like, how's your knees going? And then she'll work some stuff on the knees. And there was this one moment I was running, it was probably about 600 Ks out of Karratha. And I have never, ever, ever felt more terrified in my whole entire life than what it was running for the last 10 Ks of that day. It felt like the energy of the land felt like I was in a horror movie.
Whoa.
And I just remember finishing the day and my face was pure white and I could barely talk. And Roland's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. I need to talk to Larissa. Something has happened and I just can't put a finger on it. All I can say is that energy back there was just way off. So that night she worked on me and she just said that there was like a lot of spirit trying to attack onto me and hold onto me.
Wow.
And that's why like through that last 10Ks, I could barely breathe as well and was like hyperventilating and stuff. So she cleared all that. And then literally the next day I woke up and I hit a PB. I was on fire and I was just gun blazing. And that for me was confirmation that this shit works too. I think that's another part of the puzzle of next year's endeavor, which we'll get into, is to run with more respect for the land. A big thing that I realized from that was that I never introduced myself. I never announced that I was coming. I never paid any respect to the land. And that was my biggest takeaway in those moments. And like for next year's endeavor, that's a massive learning curve for me to include into all that as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's so important. I feel like for anybody listening to this, and I guess like from what I've experienced, like I'm living in Broome, you've lived in Karratha. This is part of Australia that I feel is like very, 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 very old country. And there's a lot of healing and a lot of spiritual energy around here. And from my last 11 years of living in Broome, my awareness of the energy of country, traditional custodians, the ancestors has been so much more like open and made more aware of and heightened that I do believe it's so important that wherever we go in the world, let alone just these specific areas, to have that respect for country and know that the land has energy, the land has spirits, the land has history. And it's important for us to introduce ourselves, to make peace, to take care of country, like I'm always one for like, pick up your litter, people, pick up your rubbish, take care of country, take care of spirit, because we are energetic beings and we are impacting the earth and the earth impacts us as well. So I'm so glad you've highlighted that, how important you feel like for next year when you do your big run, because you'll be passing everywhere.
I'll be passing like, I think, well, just in Australia alone, there's over 250 countries within Australia. And it's like,
Yeah.
And I think this is what has been really prominent in my mind now is that, yeah, before last year's run, I was aware of country, but not to this extent.
Yeah.
And no one's really taught that either. If you're not grown up around it, if you're not around country, the elders, the Indigenous, it's not spoken about.
No, you have no awareness.
You have no awareness. And it's like, it's not your fault because you don't know what you don't know. But now that I know that there's more country out there, I want to learn about it. I want to pay my respects to it. And that's another piece of the element that I want to bring into next year's run is to like acknowledge the traditional owners and the elders a lot more and show whoever's watching that we need to do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I will add something on that because I'm originally from Victoria, and I would have to say like my awareness and growing up with Indigenous culture was probably very limited. Apart from like the random white Australia history you get taught in primary school and high school, Indigenous culture was probably very little and few and far between. Having said that, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, so a lot has changed, I'm hoping, since then. But I'd been living in Broome for a few years, so I was beginning to be very much aware of Indigenous culture, traditions, country, respect for the land. And I remember sitting on a tram in Melbourne, going to visit a friend, going, I don't even know what country I'm moving through right now. Victoria and Melbourne is so built up. Like, does anybody have any connection to the land? Like, do we know what spirits are on this land or what was here prior to all these buildings and the shops and the roads? And I just felt like there was such a disconnect, like just no awareness, like it's all been smothered or pushed away or forgotten. And I'm sure it's all starting to have and brought more awareness the more we have these conversations about the Indigenous Australians, the First Nation people. We're having more conversations about the importance of knowing history and knowing our culture. But at that time, I was like, I have no clue of what country I'm on. I have no idea who I'm meant to be paying respects to or to acknowledge. Like, this is so white Australia. Like, it's so like just gone. And I feel like when you come to places, particularly like regional and remote parts of Australia, and I'd say like you and I are very lucky to have grown up and lived in these areas, you have so much more awareness and you have much more respect. So that is going to be something really cool that you get to share next year within your run, like to bring that awareness, to have that, as you said, that additional element and layer into what you're doing.
I just think that it's what I want to do is like no easy feat, but I think it's going to bring a little bit more ease into the feat that I'm about to embark on as well. Yeah.
And particularly like, and you're right, like I remember our dinner conversation where you shared that story about how you ran, as you said, the last 10Ks of that particular day and you felt like it was just the worst experience. You may find yourself in other areas of Australia like exactly the same because, there is a deep history within our country's veins. So to have a light worker come and work with you, I think that's incredible.
This time I'm not just going to have one, I'm actually going to have 12 different light workers come work with me for the whole time. They're all going to be like, because I'm going to be, well, the next endeavor is March next year. I'm running off. I was going to say jetting off, but I'm running off to run a lap around Australia. So I'm going to be running 80 Ks a day, 2 marathons a day for 180 days. And that's totaling 14,000 Ks. So not only that, yeah, a lot.
Wow. Look, I'm so excited for you, honestly. I love hearing people's endeavors like this. I love hearing people's projects. I love hearing people's, like, I'm going to push myself. I'm going to go to my limits.
Yeah. So with that, that's 180 days. That's just under 6 months. So to have one light worker work with me probably isn't doable. So that's where they're going to be taking in turns, tapping in, tapping out. Like everyone's going to be checking in with me every single day and like working their own magic as well as I'll work my own magic. So to have 12 light workers come on board to help me achieve this endeavor with all the other support too, I'm just like, this is going to be epic.
This is so freaking cool. I love it. So you're going to have 12. How do you know these 12? Like, I think I only know a few, but how do you know 12?
So the lady who helped me last year on last year's run, she is Sarah Matu, and she has a master's training in light workers and has been doing this for about 40 odd years. And she's picked some of her key students to come through and help me too.
Wow, that's so great. Oh my God, what an
Mhm.
amazing team. And I love this too, because we're going to talk a little bit more. I want to hear a little bit more about your physical training, the mental training, but that's your energetic like support team within your training and the actual event itself. Because I don't know if you've heard of Russ Cook, who was the first man that ran the entire length of Africa. I'm sure you've come across him. Have you met
Yeah.
him? You're giggling on something. You're going to say, I know him. He's like my
So
friend.
I just remember like I've watched some of his YouTube and his TikToks as well. And it's like, I'm Ross Cook. I'm going to run the entire length of Africa, like
Yeah.
every single day on repeat. And that's all that comes to my head. Entire length of Africa. Whenever someone says his name. So yeah.
Yeah, so you've got that on repeat every time you hear his name. I've only just come across him, and Francois and I are slowly working through his vlogs on YouTube. But yeah, he's the same. Like he was running like 80 Ks, like is it 2 marathons a day? He was doing 60, he was doing over a marathon every day. I would say he had a lot of hardships, including visas and vehicle problems, as well as like, health related problems. I'm sure that running in Australia, you don't have to worry about visas or crossing different state lines. But with what I want to say before that was like, I love that you've got the three elements, because this is what we are. We're physical, mental, and we're energetic. So what's happening in the physical training aspect? Like, what is different or changed from last time? Or are you just continuing with the same training program? Like, what do you believe is going to get you across that line to do 180 days? Like, holy moly.
So my first step was actually like what's kind of drastically changed is I've got a new running coach now who actually fully supports the mission and believes in me from the very get-go. Whereas my last running coach didn't. It was just like, we might be able to do this, we might not. So now I've got someone in my corner 110% from the get-go. Thinks I'm crazy, but we're doing it.
Yeah, awesome. Love it.
So training is like now it's just increasing. September, October, November, and December will be my heaviest load. So I'll be running anywhere from 200 to 300 Ks a week. That's probably about 30 to 40 hours worth of running a week. Plus, actually, it's way more than that.
That's okay. I'm not great at maths, so I believe whatever you say.
And then my strength is kind of the exact same, but just a lot more intentional behind it. My recovery has definitely increased, but also my holistic approach, as in my diet and getting rid of a lot of the toxin buildup in my body now as well, which I mentioned like previous to this recording. Like I've just started doing a heavy metal detox, and for the last 3 weeks, I started it 3 weeks ago, and for the first 2 weeks, I was absolutely zonked, like bedbound. I had no idea how many toxins are coming out of my body, but I was like, I need to do all that I can right now to get my body to be robust by the time March comes. And it starts with the insides, your gut health, your hormones, the heavy metals, and all of that. So that's been a lot different. And again, eye-opener to see if I clean that up, how far my body can go to.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you are literally doing like ultra marathon type running every single day. How long would you reckon it takes you to complete 80 Ks in a day? Like, would that be just non-stop, or would you take breaks? Like, what would that look like?
I'll definitely take breaks. So what worked really well for me last time was I would run 15 Ks, stop, grab a bagel, eat while I was continuously running. And then I would stop at the 35K mark. So I would stop just over halfway. So this time round, I'll stop at about the 45K mark. I'll jump in my recovery boots and have a quick nap. I'll do a meditation, and then I'll get back on the run. So I'll stop for about an hour, recover, meditate, eat, and then get back on the run and finish off the day. So next year, it will probably take me anywhere from, I would say, 10 hours to about 14 hours every day.
Wow. So that would be like a really early start. Because I feel like when Russ Cook's training, I think it took him until like he got this other guy to come on board and be part of the team. This other guy that came on, he was like, you got to get up earlier. Like none of this late morning start business, Russ. Like you can start early to finish your day properly. And Russ was like, yeah, I suppose I better do that.
Yeah.
I was like, what day are you up to? Like, Russ, like this is madness. Anyway, so I'm guessing that it would be like quite an early start because, from 6 to 6 p.m., judging by daylight, all of that kind of stuff.
Well, what I noticed on the last run is if I hadn't had a good night's sleep, I was running so much more slower. So then from that, like my start times now will be at about 7 a.m. I'll start at 7 and then sometimes I'll start at 6, depending on how I sleep and what time I go to bed. But it will be priority 8 hours of sleep and then I'll wake up and get on the road.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then you said you use a recovery boot. Is that correct? Like, what is that for the non-runners here?
Yeah, so it's that black roll, and you kind of like you put these pants on, and then all of a sudden the pants and the legs they blow up into like compression, and then they compress your legs down and like help with blood circulation, help with the lactic acid build up and the soreness and the tiredness of your leg. So it's just compression, like going in and out, like air flowing up and then flowing back down
Ah.
on your legs. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's almost like a kind of like a lymphatic drainage in a way, like it helps reduce inflammation throughout the body.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Gosh, there's so many cool things out there. So you're going to be doing that. So then what's in the mental health preparation here?
So I continuously work with my light worker, like once a week we have a session just to clear out everything. I work with my own mentor as well. And then, yeah, resilience building. Resilience building has been back on track now as well. That's more with IFA. And just to
Mm,
help keep my nervous system calm, or train my nervous system to stay calm in like uncomfortable situations.
absolutely. What kind of like challenges do you think you're going to find out there on the road? Or are you setting the intention like, no, there are no challenges, like spirits with me, my team's with me, we're just cruising through this every single day?
Honestly, that's what I feel like. I feel like the thing that I'm not terrified, but the thing that I am like a little bit hesitant about is the energy of the land moving through that. Like that's my biggest concern, but my biggest like in my face at the moment. But everything else, I'm like, my body's fine. Everything else taken care of. It's just another day. I just got to run. That's it. And
Mhm.
that's all I got to do. So I think it's just if I can nail the energetic side and moving through the land and not feeling the way that I felt for those last 10Ks of that day, then
Yeah.
definitely I feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably a lot your light worker would be able to help you with, I'm sure, leading up to that as well, like vision casting or future projecting like out into the country, into land.
Yeah, for me, every day I visualize myself waking up, putting my shoes on, going for that solid 80Ks, going to bed, it's done. And I've also envisioned myself crossing the finish line as it's already done. My body's still intact. I'm still feeling strong. I've raised the 1.4 million. I've impacted worldwide and it's all done.
Oh my gosh, amazing. So
Yeah.
tell us the direction you're going to run in. Like, is there a plan in terms of the best way to run around Australia? Because, I think, is it across the Nullarbor? You can often get a headwind. Is that true? Or I don't know. I just have no idea. Which is the best way to run around Australia? What is the general route people take?
What is the general rule of thumb? There is none. You take a car or a plane. But I am starting in Perth and I'm going to go south because I want to finish on the WA stretch because I've already done it and I want that to be my home stretch. So I want to
Mm,
finish on that leg because it's just sentimental of me so much. So I'm like, I want to finish with all my Chucky friends, with WA behind me. I'm going to start going south. So Esperance, or Albany, Esperance, Nullarbor, down to Adelaide, Melbourne, up to Sydney, through Queensland, Brisbane, and then up to Darwin, straight
amazing.
home. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
been a
goodness.
logistics nightmare because it's like, no, you have to take in consideration like weather, summer, winter, and all that. And honestly, there's no best time to run around Australia. You just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. I was even thinking like, it's like, chasing the sun, it's always hard because you got summer if you're going down south and then you're heading into winter depending on where you are and then you got to get back up north like it is hard like to what time of the year are you starting?
So I was starting March because that was kind of like enough time for training to take place as well. And
Yeah.
March will be the latest time that I'll start. So then, like, I can take into factor Pilbara weather around August, September. So I'll be finishing coming down the Pilbara coastline at the back end of August, which was when I started my last run. And although we had a heat
Yeah.
wave, I'm just projecting and just hoping that we don't have a heat wave around that.
Yeah, exactly. So you're coming down the coast generally in the dry season, which shouldn't be as hot as like a wet season. Yeah, cool. That sounds
Yeah,
exciting. Oh my
I'm
goodness.
very
And
excited.
then do you have like any backup or leeway if there is a day where you have to have a rest day? Or is
Yeah.
that just a non-negotiable? You're like, I don't give a shit. I'm not resting. I'm just running every single day.
No, so me and my team, in the 180 days, we've actually factored in 12 rest days. So
Yeah.
whether I have a rest day, whether I don't, like I said to them, if I'm feeling good, I'm going to keep punching. I'm going to keep pushing. But what we're actually, like, we've factored in 12 rest days, but the 180 days is kind of just like, that's what I want to achieve it in. But I'm also going for the female world record to run around Australia the fastest. And up my sleeve, I've got 150 days to play with. So it's going to happen.
Wow. I was going to say, like, are you breaking any records here, or are you just doing it in a speed that feels comfortable and right for you? How many other people have done this before you, like in terms of in the female category?
So there's one female who has done it, and she did it back in like 1996, I'm pretty sure. And
Wow.
she currently holds the world record for 366 days.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
So you're hoping to like literally like half her effort.
Half that. Yeah. And in the male category, Patrick Farmer currently holds the record for 182 days, I think. But crazy, I've actually got a friend who's just about to finish his run around Australia.
Wow. Yeah.
And he's going to be doing it in 168 days, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's less than the previous guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
he has honestly pushed his body to the absolute limit, pure willpower and just determination, which is great. But I think when you look at it from a holistic approach, as I do, yeah, it's going to be insane to see what happens. And the difference.
Wow. So that's great. You've got someone you can get the inside knowledge of what it's all like, right?
Yeah.
What happened here? What happened here? How did you survive this? Blah, blah, blah. But also, yeah, you're looking at from that overall perspective of the physical, mental, and spiritual side, bringing that all together so that you could potentially be the first woman to smash the men's and women's like category in running around Australia in a world record time.
Yeah.
Brooke, we're so supporting you. Believe me.
But it's even so much harder as well because like there is no set route. And it's kind of like what one person did may have an extra 80 Ks, may have an extra 100 Ks or whatever. But yeah, it's going to be insane. So yeah, that's what we're doing next year.
Oh, in the bag, you've got this.
In the bag, we got this. But I feel like another part to my purpose and my mission is like that impact. And that's the message that I want to be able to spread with this is like, if you know your purpose, if you know what impact you want to create, go out there and do it in your business, in your life, whatever that may be. Like find your impact and just go.
Absolutely. Because we're all here to leave a legacy of some sort. Like for some of us, like yourself, it's a big message and a mission to share about mental health, about taking care of yourself. And in this case now, like incorporating the awareness of country and so much more that I'm sure is going to unfold from this whole entire project and endeavor that you're doing, which is called Just One More, correct? So some of us are meant to leave like that really big legacy, which what is you're doing. And for some of us, it could be just raising our kids to be good humans or to do the inner work and healing on ourselves so that we are leaving a clearer, more vibrant path for future generations that come through. So our legacy can be anything. It could be starting a business and showing people around you that it is possible to step out of the normal and create and empower yourself and lead in a way that's right for you. Or it could be running around Australia, sailing around the world. Who knows what it is? You know, we all have a reason for being here on this planet, and we all have a reason for doing that soul and inner work, which you've basically shown with like your story here from that moment you had that horrible accident to the time right now where you're sitting here chatting to me, telling me about your goal for next year in your project of Just One More. I mean, it's, you know, sometimes in those moments you think, God, life is crazy. What we do is like madness, but this is what we're here to do. And in truth, like soul never gives us anything we can't handle. So it knows that you can handle this, that you've got this, that you have the drive, the energy, and the determination to make this happen. This wouldn't have dropped in at 2 a.m. in the morning while you're lying in your donga at work going, what the hell am I doing in my life? Like, what is coming through? soul wouldn't have said you couldn't have done this if you couldn't. It's saying like, yes, you can. And here you are. You've done it once. You've done a small leg of that. Why not just add to it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's where I go. It's like the challenges will come in, and this is what I say to people in my clients and stuff all the time. Like the challenges are going to come in, but you can use them as leverage for who you need to become to be able to maintain and hold that vision, or you can just fold. And it's like when you remind yourself of what that impact, and you said it yourself, like the impact you're here to create may just be like, may be the perfect mother, may be to nurture, maybe to give, maybe to provide, maybe to make your home a beautiful space, or whether it's in business or whatever, like just do it well, be in that and do it wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Lead from the heart, tune into yourself and your intuition, follow your own inner guidance and wisdom, do the inner work, because that's what we're here as in our soul lifetime, like to develop and work on. Wow. I am honestly so excited for you. This is going to be an incredible project. I can't wait. I'm going to be supporting you. Are you going to come in and through Broome, or are you just going to go bypass us slightly on the highway? Like, can we come and say hi as you run past us?
Well, I say I'm probably just going to bypass, but I probably will like just camp out on the side of the road. But what I'm actually doing this time is I'm bringing whoever wants to run with me, they can come run with me. Whoever wants to chat, come chat. Whoever wants to come support, like wherever I am on the leg, if it's near you, come out. And that's what I'm inviting like so many more people to do. So we've got run clubs coming throughout the whole of Australia to come run with Brooke Day, we're calling it. So come run, or just come, I don't know, wave too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And so how can we follow you on all of this? And I also know that you're going to tell us something really cool that's coming out towards the end of September as well. So tell us all that, how we can follow you, how we can donate and support you as well, because how much money are you raising for in Just One More in this project?
So the thought process was, well, if I'm going to run 14,000 Ks, I'm going to raise $1.4 million for the Blue Tree project again. I want to raise $1.4 million, and the donations is open. There's different ways we can, like, you can donate this time. Is one, sponsorship, or two, you can actually join as a part of a team and set your own challenge and fundraise yourself, which will go to this Just One More as well, which will all tie in. So we've got a lot of people setting their own running challenges. You can run, swim, bike ride. It's actually really cool how we've got it all set up this time. I'm like, this feels more as a collective, more as a community, more as a whole.
Wow, I love that. So everybody's getting behind you. So while you're doing the hard slogs, they're also setting themselves up for their own challenges as well to achieve.
Yeah, so it's more of a collective, which feels really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be documenting the whole run on my YouTube and then showing a little bit on my Instagram account as well, which is just Brooke McIntosh __, because there's another Brooke McIntosh out there.
Damn it. You're the Brooke McIntosh. Like, I'm sorry.
But it's actually really cool. Like, if you Google Brooke McIntosh resilience, I'm the first one to come up. I'm like,
yeah, 100%. So you'll be documenting it on YouTube. We can follow you on Instagram. And what's coming out at the end of September?
Yes, so my documentary is coming out. It has just been aired all across Australia and is still in process of being aired across Australia and New Zealand, which is really, really cool. But my previous run, Impact to Ignite, the 1600K run, is coming out in documentary. So yes, very excited for that.
Wow. And where can we watch that?
It will be up on YouTube or in the cinemas and stuff too.
Yeah, that's so exciting. So exciting. Oh my gosh. Wow. Seeing yourself on the big screen. How fun.
It's been insane. Like, we had the Perth screening last week and I was like, I'm like, what?
I love it.
It just goes back to, like, you are the creator of your life. Take back the pen and create the life that you want to watch on the big screen, to watch in your life. Like, create that life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's almost like, there's like a few hypnosises I've done in my time where it's like you go into your own private theater and you pull back the curtains and you're watching some sort of movie or replay of something. And that's literally what you did in that moment in the Perth screening. You're like, wow, I'm here in a movie theater watching my life on the screen as what I've visualized and imagined.
Yeah, literally. And inside the doco, you see so much of me, of my backstory, of my personality, and it's just real, raw, authentic. It literally just had the whole crowd, like, it just took them all on their journey. People were laughing, people were crying, and that's impact to me. Which is really
beautiful. beautiful. Wouldn't it make that in itself, like without your next project, your next endeavor of just one more, that is a legacy all in itself, because that is there for anybody to see forever and ever and ever. It'll always be there. That's incredible. Thank you so much. Like, honestly, I know there's been so much within our conversation today, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing this incredible journey. Like, you are one of those people that I really love to watch, to read, to feel inspired by, because it's always like, if that person can do it, then I could do something like that. Or if that person has the drive and ambition, that means there's drive and ambition available for me. Like, it's that complete example of what we can do when we put our mind towards something, when we have that self-belief and the self-determination. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this incredible story and all the ins and outs of everything that's been happening, as well as your secret weapon out of the bag. Oh my gosh. All future athletes are now going to be hiring all the light workers.
And they're like, what? Yeah, I'd say the only limits you have are the ones you place on yourself. So yeah. It's been an amazing conversation.
Yeah, I've just loved this, and I cannot wait to actually sit down with you in, I don't know what it will be, like 12 months time or even longer. Maybe even I find you as you're like camped out of Broome or something.
We come and have a potty on the run. Yeah, literally.
Yeah, and to find out how it all went, because this is so exciting. I love it. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. And yeah, please, everybody go check out all of Brooke's details. They're all listed below. Support the crap out of her as she runs around Australia, wherever you are. Like, just go out there and cheer her on. I don't know, give her a muesli bar, give her an energy drink. Water. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a great conversation. Thanks, Anna.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to today's episode. Please rate and review this podcast so that it can continue to thrive and reach more listeners. I love to know who my listeners are, so please screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram at Anna F. Hasty. And I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode.